Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're taking a look at The Thomas Way. So this was released onto DVD in the United States on December 3rd of 2013. And that's it. This was not put out again by Universal, so it's not rare per se, but it's a little uncommon, I guess. I don't know, I haven't really seen this one out and about too much, but yeah, let's stop procrastinating and get into it. So, up there in the top corner, we have Harold, we have the Thomas logo, the Thomas Way, really cool logo. The poster art, though, it's kind of generic. You got Thomas here at a very strange angle. You got Caitlyn, you got Duck, you got Gordon, you got Percy, and then they're just on some tracks just in front of some hills in the ocean, and then there's a little lighthouse in the back there. This poster art's kind of like dramatic a little bit, but it's kind of generic if you ask me. I don't know why Gordon's on here because he doesn't really star in any of these episodes, so maybe they should have put Paxton on here, but oh well. And then we have a very generic tagline, full steam ahead to great adventures. Okay. On the side, the Hit Entertainment logo, Thomas and Friends, The Thomas Way, Thomas Lionsgate. They should have made that red, just to like kind of match the front there. Oh well. The back here is also quite confusing. So we have taking charge and staying on track. At the top there under the logo. Then we have Thomas, Percy, and Stafford. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, seeing that screenshot is from Steamy Stafford and that was on Railway Mischief, so maybe Steamy Stafford was going to be on here? Who knows though, but whatever, it's fine. And then we have a little bonus features tab there. We have a new feature to the Thomas and Friends Home Media Library, I think. Bonus episode, Luke's New Friend. I don't know what the point of that is. They could have just included that with the other episodes, but oh well. We also have the Lift and Load Crane game and Guess Who puzzles. So I'll open it up here. Oh, come on. There we go. There's a disc, and it's in an eco case. Great. So I got this, I think, close to 2 years ago. I think I got it either on or around Black Friday 2020 from a thrift shop. So I was very happy to find it because at that thrift shop they have hardly anything Thomas. I've been going to that shop for about 2-3 years now, and I've only ever bought 2 things from it. So that was a lucky find. But yeah. The episodes we have on here are The Thomas Way, The Switch, Percy's Lucky Day, Calm Down Caitlyn, and The Lost Pup. And then obviously Luke's New Friend, So these episodes, they're not that bad actually. I kind of like not Percy's New Friend. Percy, what the heck is the episode called? Percy's Lucky Day. I just looked at the list. Wow. But we'll go through all the episodes here. So The Thomas Way, this is actually episode 400, so I guess they wanted to make it extra special by bringing Duck back. So this was the first time that Duck was in the CGI series, not counting Henry's Hero, but yeah, I remember back in like 2013, people were going nuts about this. I was 9 when this came out, so I didn't really care too much, even though I did kind of enjoy the episode. Yeah, I really like how that episode kind of shows off how the crew is utilizing the CGI. You get some really cool, like, sweeping and big shots, especially that shot of Harold right before he goes to Callan Castle. That's a really cool shot. Another little minor thing, I really like how Rocky actually picked Duck up to turn around. If this was the Sharon Miller era, we'd just cut from Duck coming up to Harold and Thomas, and then there'd be another shot of him already turned around. But I like the attention to detail of Rocky picking him up and turning him around. I also like that shot where the camera's like put onto Duck's tank and you just see him turning around. That's really cool as well. Another thing, whenever I think of the Thomas Way, I always think of those stupid pine trees that they put everywhere, like the trees around Callan Castle. That's what I'm talking about. But from that part of the episode until they go to Knapford Station, that's just they just throw pine trees everywhere, and it's kind of weird. Yeah, even though this episode is revolutionary by bringing Duck back, it's very Three Strikes Formula E, even though it only has 2, but I got real Sharon Miller vibes from that episode, or from the episode. Speaking of Knapford Station, Gordon is going like 50 miles an hour through that station. There's no way he would have stopped in time. If he didn't stop, I guarantee he would have just glided right through the station and Harold's floats would have just like impaled his face. Another thing that people were going crazy about when this episode came out, the Misty Island Tunnel is boarded up. So I don't know if this is 100% true, but when all of the like animation files and rigs are being brought over from Nitrogen to Jamfield, apparently they didn't get the rescue center, so they had to redo it by hand. And I guess somebody screwed up and was like, hey, look at this, the Misty Island Tunnel is boarded up. That needs to be boarded up forever. So I was so happy to see that when this episode first came out. Well, I didn't really care, but later on I was like, oh my god, thank you. Yeah, I do like the dynamic between Thomas and Duck. I do like that little not conspiracy theory, but theory that Thomas and Duck really hate each other. That's really cool. I think I mentioned that sometime in the past. I don't remember exactly, but this episode, I thought I'd have more to say about it, but it's not that fantastic. I mean, it is cool to see Duck back, and his voice is great, and his render is pretty good, even though he's way too big, but it was still good to see him back. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. And then I'll go through the little minor segments, like, that break up the episode. So we have Calling All Engines, Sir Tom Hatch shouts out Luke and Percy. And we have a song now instead of Mr. Perkins reading the Railway series, and that song is Hey Hey Thomas, and that song is awful. We have Mr. Perkins on the railway now, so he basically talks about all the noises you hear on the railway, like whistles, horns, railway crossing sirens, stuff like that. Yeah, I really love those segments. It really teaches the little kids all about railways, and that's something that I think the Miller era was really lacking. We have Who's That Engine, which is another really great segment that I talked about with Santa's Little Engine. And that segment is highlighting Thomas, and they mention the events of Express coming through. And then we have another song, which is a CGI version of Thomas You're the Leader, the song from The Great Discovery. And then, of course, you also have Luke's new friend, like I mentioned earlier. So, let's go back up here. The Switch. It's a pretty cool concept. I really like the dynamic between Luke and Millie. There's a shot at the beginning of the episode where Millie's pulling some passengers and this kid is sleeping and his dad tries to wake him up. That's just a little funny gag. And that actually is paid off later. That same kid, after Luke goes to the castle and he's pulling them around, he's going really fast, and then all the passengers are like really like, oh, that was too much. And that kid is like just jumping like crazy. He's like, again. That's just really, really funny payoff to me. I do like how Luke wasn't forgotten. He seems like one of those characters, like Sydney. Well, not Sydney, that's a bad example. Like Norman, or I don't know, any other character that would be forgotten about. Even though he does get forgotten later on after the season, I just liked how he had 2 episodes this season to focus on him. And Luke's a great character. I love Luke. He's so adorable. Yeah, the concept for the story, like I said, it is kind of cool, but it's a trope that's used in a lot of like sitcoms and other kids' TV shows, and it gets kind of old, but it's still cool that Thomas is adapting new storytelling formats. One thing that I wasn't a huge fan of that's always bothered me is the Earl uses the term peas in a pod, but the correct usage of that term should be peas in a frying pan, because he's saying, Luke, your passengers don't like being bounced around like peas in a pod. Peas in a pod means you're like really close with each other. Peas in a frying pan means you're going crazy. Yeah, again, another fine episode, nothing too crazy or special, but that dynamic between Millie and Luke is really what elevates this. So, another 7 out of 10, really great. I love the more narrow gauge centric episodes. I don't think Thomas appears in this either, so that's pretty cool. We talked about Hey Hey Thomas. Percy's Lucky Day. This is the episode that really, really surprised me. I do remember it being good, but wow, I really enjoyed myself. I love the whole fall aesthetic of this episode. Every time around fall, or every year around fall, I always watch this episode because I just really get those vibes, and it's really nice to look at. This is also another character return episode. Bill and Ben come back, and I remember this was also pretty crazy, although not as hyped up as Duck, but I remember like right after Thomas leaves that shot and Bill and Ben's whistles are heard and then they appear, I was like, wow, that's great to see them. And they're handled really, really well. There's a scene right toward the end of the episode after Percy saves Ben. I think it's Ben, yeah. Sir Tom Hat comes to like confront them, and then Bill and Ben just argue. But yeah, they got him right in this era. I think Bill and Ben and probably like Toad, maybe, are some of the only returning characters that I think are handled really, really well. I love Bill and Ben. They're so fun. Speaking of dynamics, I love the Percy and Steven dynamic. It's kind of like Percy and Edward from Trouble in the Shed. I would like to see them in more episodes. I believe their dynamic is shown more in The Phantom Express, but I haven't seen that episode in a long time. Another flaw with this episode, how did Percy not notice that horseshoe falling off his brake pipe? I always was very annoyed by that. Another thing I was very confused by, why is Sir Topham Hatt giving the Duchess a gift? Like, it's not like he's sending a gift to Lady Hat or something. I would have thought an episode about Sir Topham Hatt and the Duchess having an affair would be cool, but no, the series ended, so can't get that. Yeah. Again, I mentioned the twins earlier, but I like how they're used here. They're not just like shoved in for fan service. They actually help advance the story and advance Percy's character development. Yeah, we also get a really fun climactic action scene. It feels very classic Thomas to me, like very season 6. I kind of get those vibes, you know what I'm saying? And another really funny thing, I really love how frantically Percy says goodbye. He's just like, goodbye! And he just leaves. That's kind of funny. Yeah, great episode. Definitely a hidden gem. I don't know what the fandom thinks about this, but if they hate it, they're wrong. I had a lot of fun with it. My only complaint is that I really don't like the cliche plot, but it's a nice, refreshing change for Thomas. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10. Bordering on a 9. This might be one of my favorites from the season. It's really, really great. Calm Down Caitlyn. Not as much to say about this episode as I thought I would say, but it's still pretty decent. I like how they gave Caitlyn an actual personality. She's not forgotten like Luke. There's a shot of Gordon, James, and Henry towards the second act of the story, and Gordon and James are really pissed off, and then Henry just has this really like worried smile, and I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Speaking of characters, what? I love how Percy is characterized here. This is in my opinion, perfect Percy. He feels very mature and like, he feels like an actual, like, authority figure. Like, he feels like an adult. Not the stupid, whiny baby that we've always gotten him at, or we've grown accustomed to him being. Yeah, very well done with Percy there. So those are really the only 3 major points that I have to say about that episode. It's not anything too special like the switch, but I do like how Caitlyn was characterized, so I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Bordering more towards probably a 7, but it is another very 3 strikes episode, so that's kind of what drags it down for me. Alright, and then the last official episode, I will mention Luke's new friend, but the last episode in the release technically is The Lost Puff. This is known as the worst episode of season 17, along with Stevie Stafford. I kind of agree, but I love Paxton. He is so funny, so hilarious. And the faces he makes, the vocal performance that Steve Kyman gives him is absolutely hilarious. I think this is one of the earlier episodes that they animated, and the physics are really, really bad. Like, it's so choppy. So Thomas will come along. He'll be like, It's just so choppy and so jarring to me. I didn't like that at all. Also, how the hell did that water pipe get into Thomas's cab? And shouldn't his crew have gotten soaked? Did they get soaked? Do we know? Who knows? That would have been a great little visual gag. Speaking of the water pipe, again with these transitions, this is Toby's only speaking role this season, and I was shocked by that because I could have sworn he spoke in more episodes, but nope. This is the only time that Toby appears, and that's crazy to me. Speaking of, we're going back to talking about Paxton, but speaking of funny moments, Steven's reaction to Paxton going crazy over a cloud is gold. His face is so funny. Also, what is an exhaust stack? Is that just a funnel, or is that like an actual thing? I think Salty has one actually, but I don't think Paxton has an exhaust stack, so I don't know what that means. Another thing I'm not really a huge fan of, I don't like how blatantly the moral is told to us. So Paxton's like, I also learned not to be silly. I don't like how, just shoved down your throat it is. It's very obnoxious and not appealing. So this episode was very dumb. The whole premise is kind of stupid, but the one thing that is elevating it is the humor. So it's not horrible, but not anything to write home about. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's not as bad as Steamy Stafford, but it's still not very good. Then we have Luke's new friend. I'll briefly touch on that. It's just a very heartwarming episode, very entertaining. Again, I love episodes that feature the narrow gauge engines because they're such cool characters. I also mentioned this with the Switch, but Thomas is absolutely nowhere to be seen, which is a blessing. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. I really, really like the end of the episode. The end of the episode, though, it plays a instrumental from Henry's Forest, which is really, really heartwarming and touching. And I love how cinematic, for lack of a better term, it is. It's very mature. There's not a whole lot of talking. It's just relied on visuals and music, and that's really, really cool. I also am not. Well, I didn't say anything bad about this episode yet, but I don't like Rheneas really because. Well, I like Rheneas as a character, but how does he not know what a deer is? Rheneas has been through so much. He's over 100 years old. How does he not know what a deer is? I thought that was so dumb. But yeah, this episode is very heartwarming, very entertaining, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So that's really it. I feel like this release was one of the most popular from this era, but it didn't have much for me to talk about. The episodes are fine. They're not anything too crazy, but I do like them. They're not bad by any means. I mean, The Lost Puff is kind of bad, but the rest are very, very good. I will also mention we've hit a kind of a sad note for Thomas and Friends DVD history, but this is officially the last Thomas DVD to be put out in full screen. You can see right on the back here. Oh, full screen. We will never see full screen content from Thomas ever again. It will all be in widescreen, and I'm so happy because this looks terrible in 4:3. So I'm very excited for that. I do also want to apologize for not uploading an episode yesterday. It was actually my 7-year anniversary on YouTube for Turbo 711, so I wanted to spend all day working on stuff for that, and I did a live stream too. So apologies, this is coming out later, but better late than never, you know what I'm saying? I'll briefly go to the wiki to see if there's anything else to talk about. Nope. That's pretty much it. Oh, this is actually the first mainstream US DVD since the DVD release of Rusty to the Rescue, not to include the Canadian French narration, so. And I don't believe we will ever get French ever again, which is unfortunate, but who cares? But yeah, that's all for this episode here. We're clocking in at about 20 minutes now, so we gotta wrap this up. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Excuse me. Ugh. Apologies about that. But I will see you on Saturday with Spills and Thrills. Oh my god, that is a great release. I'm so excited. So, see you then. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.